pleasure to be speaking to all of you this afternoon. My name is Angela, and I've been associated with Eaton since 2017. It's a pleasure to be, talking about business analytics. I teach business analytics in the place where I'm employed right now. So I'll just take you through the whole point, today of how I'm going to drive this session is to introduce you to this concept of analytics. What would business analytics really entail? A course in business analytics. Why would you want to do that? What is so interesting about business analytics? So if you're pursuing an MBA, if you're pursuing a management program, a diploma, a degree, what would actually doing some of the fundamental courses, some of the advanced courses in analytics really mean to you? So that's the driving point here. So what I will right now do is I will just share my screen, and I will give you an overall. Let me just share my screen, and then I will explain the rest. Please let me know if you're able to share you're able to see my shared screen. All right, here we go. I'm just putting it on slideshow mode. Are you able to see this now? Okay. That's nice. Let me just minimize all the other screens so that I'm able to. So I'm going to be, dividing this session into 4 different parts. In the first part, I'm going to be introducing the concepts to you. And in the second and the third part, I will very briefly, but very quickly take you through how analytics is applied in the business domain. And what are some of the common tools and techniques? See, it's not possible to jam-pack everything and give it to you in a 1-hour session. But I'm trying my best to give you a lot of examples and, trying to convey the essence of this particular subject to you, of this particular concept to you. All right. Faraz, I'm seeing a voice disturbance that you are experiencing, but I'm assuming that the others are able to hear. So I will just proceed, and I hope you will be able to rectify it at your end. So let me just get started with introduction. Okay, let me, since we are able to interact over the chat, I'm going to start with one of the most vital aspects, and most of you are actually aspiring to become managers, or probably you're already in managerial roles. You're curious about what the whole analytics concept is about. One of the most important aspects, one of the most important functions that a managerial role entails is what? Tell me over the chat. What are some of the important, roles that managerial functions that managerial roles? Decision making, absolutely. One of the most important. I'm so glad that I got the answer in the first go. So Ahmed, that makes it interesting. Decision making, and that's exactly where we are starting today. There are so many other things. It could be controlling, it could be coordinating, it could be communicating, it could be managing. But most important would be decision making, something that would be felt throughout the different layers and levels of organization would be the decisions that you make as a manager. All right. So what we are going to, okay. So, you have different approaches to decision making. There are various ways in which you could probably be making decisions. One of the common, very, very, I would say a very layman way of making decisions would be by tradition. By tradition, this is what we do in the organization. So, and therefore, this is being what is followed, all right, every time. So you can often see that in schools, in colleges, very often the top scorers are made the head boys and the head girls and so on and so on. That's tradition. You don't really put your thoughts into that other than the fact that they are academically very, oriented, and therefore they become the head boy or head girl or the captain of the school. All right, so there are certain traditions that are followed in organizations. The other could be intuition. You could be making decisions on the basis of certain gut feel. There's something that tells me that this is the right decision. There's something that tells me, don't pick this up. Don't do this. It is not wrong. Intuitions are always very, very powerful. But remember, there are also so sometimes what happens is when you actually, okay, I'm seeing one more, get insight of the information to do decisions, says Mohammed, all right. So intuitions can sometimes lead you to a risky condition. There are always risks associated, and sometimes these risks can be very, very expensive, all right. So for instance, I will give you an example. This person here, are you all able to see an image that I'm sharing at the moment? All right. So this person here on the screen is, his name is Richard Paul Rowe, and he was considered to be, so just go several years back, he was one of the most powerful faces in the music industry, in the English music industry. And there was a young guitar band which actually sent, their audition, their recording to him. And Richard Rowe and his team rejected or declined to go further with this team. They just felt that the guitar groups were on their way out. They did not find a future. Something told them that, well, this was not going to work out. There is no future for guitar bands. All right. The problem is the same band went on to become what is referred to as Beatles. All right. So if you just look at history, Beatles become one of the best-selling. It's still regarded as a very, very powerful brand. So a decision that was made out of intuition, a decision that was made out of a feeling that this may not really last, cost the company. Somebody else went on, some other organization goes on to sign Beatles, and of course becomes one of the most successful, successful bands of all time. Intuition at work in decision making. At other times, what you can have is you can have a rule of thumb. You're going to buy a car. Assume that your parents are going to spend the money for your car, and so your dad or your mom says, "Well, you have 5 alternatives, and the simple rule of thumb is whichever is the most fuel efficient, go for that, or whichever is the most cost, most economical one, go for that." It's a simple rule of thumb. So what happens is your decision is very simple. Your decision is very easy. In the sense, all you have to look at is which is going to be the most economical option. And that is the one that you are going to buy. All right. So there are different approaches to decision making. All right. Now, organizations can also have now, what are the problems with all these kind of approaches, whether it is traditional, whether it comes out of intuition, whether it comes out of, Richard Paul Rowe, for instance, he did not sign Beatles the first time, but he goes on to, out of his experience, he goes on to sign Rolling Stones. So experience is also an important factor in decision making. Rule of thumb can be also a way in which your decisions can be made. But what do you think are the problems with these kind of decision making? Any of you? What do you think are some of the problems that are associated with these kinds of decision making? all right? So a lack of predictability, or I would call it, there is always no statistical evidence, absolutely, because you really, you don't, you're not relying on any kind of evidence. And therefore, what Ahmed says, there is a lack of predictability or the risk, the outcome, you really can't be sure. You can't be sure of the outcome in any case, but you can always reduce the risk that is associated with decision making. And how do you do that? All right, there are ways or mechanisms that are available today by which you can reduce the risk that is associated with decision making. And so we are going to now look at another approach of decision making. So businesses can operate, continue to take decisions either out of intuition, out of guesswork, as Jacob here says, without any statistical evidence, they can go on. I could be selling things at the roadside. I wouldn't really want any other approach. But there are organizations, and I'm coming to some of my favorite examples, which I keep repeating every time I take a business analytics class. Some organizations, what they do is they have a different approach to decision making. Have you heard of all these organizations that I'm putting on the, I'm sharing as images here. I'm sure you're familiar with most of them, a lot of them, in fact. Absolutely. You know what makes these organizations, see, you're all from different parts of the world. We are all sitting in different parts of the world, yet we are all familiar. Absolutely. Husna is what I believe the name is. Husna says she is familiar with almost all, not almost, all of the names. And what makes these organizations so very powerful that people from across the world recognizes them? Dilraj says, Dilraj is able to, able to recognize the names. So, yeah, Faraz says it is data which makes these organizations unique. These organizations, they collect data, they examine data in order to drive their decisions. I'll give you an example, for instance. Let me take one example out of this. Walmart. They're all data-driven. Absolutely, Ahmed. Data-driven organizations. Faraz says decision-making with data. That's exactly what the power of all these organizations is. So let's just look at some of these organizations. Let's just try and understand, what is it? How do they really, let's just try and understand some of the cases in which they really applied data to take their decisions. Okay, I'm going to take an example from Walmart. And this is not something that happened in the recent times. We are going back somewhere to around 2008-9, and we are going to see a certain, some early 2000s, I'm assuming, where this particular incident that I'm going to share happened. And we're talking about Walmart. So what happened is, Walmart stores are all across the US. All right. And I often find, out of so many examples that I've actually read about and used in my class, this still remains one of my biggest and most favorite. So what happens is Walmart stores are located across US. All right. And in the eastern region, the eastern coastal region of the US are often subject to a lot of these natural disasters, especially hurricanes, severe winds and rains of that kind. So what happens is there is now off the eastern coast, there is a warning for a particular hurricane. All right. Suddenly there is a warning which comes, and there is a hurricane warning. So what happens? What happens when there is a natural disaster warning? What do people do? It's going to be severe storm, severe rain. Hurricane is severe storm and rain. So what do you think people do when there is a hurricane warning? Or for that matter, any natural disaster warning? What do people do? They relocate, all right? They prepare themselves, very close to the answer. They take precautions. Great, Timothy, they stock up. There is always something. Yes, they relocate all those stock groceries, Nitya. So very often what happens is people tend to do what is referred to as panic buying. They hear this immediately, imagine the situation. You've got small children at home, you've got old parents at home, you've got your grandparents at home, you've got, different kinds of people at home. And therefore you want to make sure hurricane means electricity could be a problem, water supply could be disrupted. So one of the first things that you could do is you rush to the store and make sure that you have enough of the essential stocks at home, right? This is what people do. And this is exactly what all the retail stores, they all expected people to come and start buying the essential items from the stores. So they also stock up. People buy, and of course, the supermarkets and hypermarkets and Walmarts, everywhere they begin to stock up their items. All right. Now what happened is, at this point of time, so this particular hurricane is called Hurricane Francis. Each hurricane has a name. So there is Hurricane Francis, warning has come. And there is this lady chief information officer of, of Walmart. What she does is, immediately as this warning comes, she tells her team, and just imagine Walmart, all right? They've got huge customer data. They've got hundreds and thousands of customers buying from their different stores each week. What she wants to understand is, she tells her team, look what people bought when there was a similar event. So they looked back and they found that just around a few weeks back, there was another hurricane which had hit the eastern coast of America. Almost similar patterns you are able to see. Hurricane Charlie had hit America, eastern coast, just a few weeks back. So Linda Dillman, whose photograph I'm showing there at the bottom of the screen, tells her team, she's a chief information officer of the Walmart team at that point of time, and she tells the team, look what people bought when the Charlie warning was given. All right. And so they go and they analyze. What do? They deep dive into the data. They take all the customer data and they look at, in that 24 hours, what did people buy? And they found something very, very interesting. Like every other store in the city, they expected that people would buy flashlights, people would buy medicines, people would buy groceries, like Nitya has mentioned here, people would buy radio, people would buy all these essential items because they expect, hurricanes could be disastrous. It could be a problem. But what they found when they examined data is that people did not buy any of these things. People did buy, but what they bought more was something else. In fact, they were surprised to find that the maximum selling items, when a disaster warning was sounded, was, a particular flavor of Pop-Tarts, a particular sweet item, and cases of beer. These were the two most popular items that was there in the customer transactions. Are you able to understand? Are you able to look? Are you able to imagine how data is precious to organizations? So what does Walmart do? It's a great finding. It's not a simple finding. You know what happens? Immediately, Walmart stores in these particular locations are stocked up with Pop-Tarts and beer cases because those are the choicest items. All right. Whereas the other stores in the city, the other competitors in the city, they stock up the flashlights, they stock up the medicines, they stock up the groceries. Not that they don't sell, but here is Walmart's competitive edge. Their data just gave them an edge over their competitors. So when the people go to the store to buy beer cases, the other stores run out of stock, whereas Walmart shelves were well stocked of the best-selling items. They were able to identify based absolutely. That is what, that smart move, Husna, is what is referred to as your competitive edge. Data becomes your competitive edge over the others. Exactly, Jacob. It gives you an edge over competition. It becomes a part of your competitive strategy. And Walmart, organizations like Walmart, were able to identify it much longer back. All right. So this was one very critical example, I thought, which will, drive the point here. Now, and I'll give you other examples as well. Let's also look at more recent examples. A favorite, I'm sure. How many of you know these names? Netflix, of course, I know. But how many of you watched House of Cards? How many of you watched Gilmore Girls? Series like these. All right, Philip, you've watched House of Cards? Anybody else who's watched any of these series? All right. And did you like it? Timothy says yes. Jacob never got through an episode, all right. But it's one of their most successful series on Netflix. One of the most successful series that Netflix had was House of Cards. All right. So the participants here seem to have a different idea. I'm not sure. I've not watched. I know Netflix, but my choice of programs are different. But let's come to the point. All right. Now, what happened with House of Cards? It became one of their best-selling, one of the most watched series that has ever happened on Netflix. And how did Netflix play this? You know what? Netflix bought House of Cards first two seasons, the first two seasons of the series. They did not watch it. They did not see a single episode of it before buying, but they bought the first two seasons of House of Cards for almost $100 million. It was a huge investment that they went in for. A huge amount of money. How do you think an organization like Netflix is able to take that kind of decision? You know what they did? They looked at, so when they were approached with this particular series, what is said is that they analyzed the crew, they analyzed the star. So they found that Kevin Spacey is a lead actor, and they found out that the other members in the team, including the director, David Fincher, they looked at a different data points, and they found out that whenever this team got together, there was always a recipe for success. And they picked it up and they put it, and they found that it was actually a big success. One of their biggest stories. Gilmore Girls, what happened? When the show was actually running on TV, Netflix would actually tweet about the series. They would run a tweet on Twitter. They would have some social media tag playing. And they found that these tweets, these social media tweets, these social media posts were actually becoming viral. And from that, they understood. That means, how do you say something becomes viral? People start retweeting it. People start sharing it. People start putting it up as their status. And they found that there is a certain excitement about this series from the viewer audience. This is how organizations tap into their data. imagine the kind of data that your organizations collect. A lot of data could be there. There could be transaction data, there could be customer data, there could be social media data, there could be employee data, there could be the data that is collected by the sensors and the different cameras, etc., which is all being collected. And what does your organization do with it? If the organizations are not able to actually collect the data and analyze it in a way that brings value to them, Netflix did that, Walmart did that. If your organization is not able to do that, then that data is what we call as dark data, because it's of no value to the organization. It's not giving you any insight. It is not helping your decisions. It is not adding value to you or your customers. It's dark data. So business analytics, when you're talking about analytics, and you will find it in different ways of how these organizations are actually using data. Netflix keeps recommending to you, don't it? Doesn't it keep recommending to you that these could be the best ones that you enjoy based on what you viewed, based on what others in your profile viewed? It is able to. It is all based on data. So what we need to understand here is that good decisions have systematically assembled data and analysis of that data behind them. That's the first thing that you need to understand. Analytics is all about informing your decision making. And how does that informed decisions come in? Because it is data-driven decision making. Somebody said that very early on here. I'm not remembering the name, but there were two very, very valuable points that came in. One, what Jacob said, that data is the king. I suppose that was the point here that was told. Data is the king. It really helps you in the competition. And Ahmed, who went on to say that data is, Ahmed, what was your point? I don't exactly remember the word, but I think you said data-driven decision making. Two very key things, and that's what business analytics is all about. Are you able to relate to what is being spoken? All right. So let's just look at a few other examples. I'm just very quickly taking you through this. So why is we hear very, very smart, look at that statement, data is the new oil. So, for years, we had the, there were other sources or other ways in which organizations became very powerful. Organizations became very relevant. If you look at these kind of organizations, and if you are in the current business environment, you should be able to understand how data is impacting your business environment. So before Netflix came in, there were other organizations. I'm just taking in particular the US environment, the American entertainment space, just to illustrate this example. So there was Blockbuster. I'm sure in your own little towns or spaces, wherever you are, we relied a lot on DVD, right? Before Netflix and things came in. So there was a DVD, there was the lending of DVDs. We used to borrow, we used to watch, return back. There were postal services for DVDs, and the whole thing changed when Netflix came in, because Netflix was able to understand that internet is going to power everything. Internet is going to surge, whether you are in a developed country, whether you are in a developing country, whatever is the state of the world that you're living in, internet is something that is going to be relevant in all societies. And therefore, what they did was that they created a product that would survive on the net and they were able to look at the data and make that product very, very powerful. They brought a new capability into the market. That's what data does to business. You look at Uber. Uber is able to, when in the morning, if at 8:30 on Sunday morning, if I take up my mobile and if I click on Uber, it will immediately prompt, the first prompt that comes is the church where I attend the Sunday service. I did not tell it anything, but probably on a couple of Sundays when my car was not, available, I probably booked an Uber, and therefore Uber is immediately able to understand that this is the most likely location that I'm traveling. Whereas if I try my Uber on Monday to Friday, it will show my job location first. It's the same thing that happens with YouTube. When the church service went online, every Sunday morning, I watch my church services online. And when I search YouTube on Sunday morning at 7:30 for my service, I don't type in anything. I just click on YouTube, and the first link that comes is the church where I attend the service online. It is able to look at how organizations like these, absolutely, there are a lot of algorithms that are running behind, that are able to analyze your data and that are able to give you recommendations beyond your imagination. Machines are learning how to how to interpret, how to find patterns, and they are able to tell you what would be the best option. Look at Google Maps. You want to go from point A to B, it is analyzing so many data, and it is coming to tell you that which is the route you should take. It is able to analyze the traffic data. It is able to, look at so many different aspects, and it is able to give you an increased efficiency. Jacob says, for us, says machine learning algorithms, yes, a lot of it, of course. And Jacob says basic profiling and segmentation by Uber data sometimes feel like a crystal ball. There's a lot of profiling, of course, that happens even without our knowledge. All right. So you need to really understand how this whole business environment is working. And that's where analytics becomes very, very powerful in the context of a business. All right. So traditionally, if I were to buy a car, my problem, you identify what's the business problem, you identify what is the problem that you're facing, and you determine you will say, I'm having some comments here. For us, is understanding your preference and providing you what you need to see. That is building interest, that engages. That is the way organizations engage with their customers. All right. So traditionally, our decisions used to be simple and straightforward. You have a problem, you identify the criteria that will be, you have certain alternatives. There are certain criteria. You use the criteria to determine which is the best alternative. You evaluate all the alternatives and you choose an alternative. Today, what we are actually doing is that you identify the problem. And we're going to see examples very quickly on how organizations do that. All right. So you are going in for data driven. So the first thing is, what is the problem? The second thing is that, do you have data that can help you deal with the problem? So how do you apply? So this, I hope all of you are able to understand what analytics is, analytics in the concept of a business environment. How do you apply it? I'm going to take one single organization, an imaginary organization, and I'm having a CEO. I don't know how many of you can identify this face. Those of you who are Netflix avid watchers can definitely identify this face. But I'm remodeling him here as a CEO of an imaginary company. And, so let's call this company as Ravola Retail. Anybody who's identified this person will be able to tell me. Ah, yes, Maria. Are you a Suits watcher? All right. And did you enjoy it? Excellent. All right. So I need to catch up with all of you. I'm very, very. So I kind of stay away from series and just watch movies. All right. George, I wouldn't know this person's name other than, other than Harvey Specter. I suppose that's a screen name, right? Ah, so I'll stick to that. All right. You seem to be far more knowledgeable in that. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm just adopting Harvey Specter as the CEO of Revola Retail, a big, huge retail, which is based, let's assume, in the US. And to build a reliable business, Mr. Specter approaches his data science team. All right, so there is just imagine there is a team of people who is available to analyze data. And there are a couple of questions that he asks. Look at the questions that are being asked. One, can I know which products sell together? Second, can anyone help our HR team to shortlist resumes faster and save time? And third, what are our customer feedback about our products across geographies? All right, so these are some of the questions. Bhavna, how much time do I have approximately now? I don't know if Bhavna is able to hear me. Yeah.
I'm here, ma'am.
Yeah.
You have time. You can take and complete your content.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Don't worry. I'll not keep you for too long, but I just wanted an idea as to how long we can go. Great. So there are three questions. Thank you, Bhavna. There are three questions that are asked here. All right. Let's take it one by one. The first question is, can I know which products sell together? It's very important. You know, organizations, especially retail, e-commerce platforms, would like to know which are the products that are likely to sell together. If a person picks up a bread, what is the probability that the person will also pick up a jam? If I pick up bread and jam, is there a probability that I will also pick up milk? You know, so these kind of things. Why? Because especially, yeah, butter, yes, absolutely. So you would, thanks, Bharti, definitely. So you want to work out those combination of items and always remember, you know, these things are not what we think. These are intuitions. These are assumptions that when I buy bread, I'm likely to buy butter, jam, and so on and so on. But probably, you know, there are other ways by which people pick up their items. And that is what organizations would like to know. Retail stores would like to know what is the possibility of a customer picking up item A and item Z. Yes. So you need to analyze purchase history. So Specter has approached his data science team. Let's look at how these questions can be answered. So remember, I showed you the slide. You identified the problem and you identify the sources of your data. All right. So what happens here? Specter has three questions. And one of the first things as an organization you will need to do is, where will your data come from? So for the first question, for instance, which are the products that will sell together? Like Usama Qasim's answer here, data can be retrieved from the inventory because you're going to, basically, your transactions is what is going to tell you. You know, it's going to tell you a whole lot of stories. That's what Walmart did. They looked at the transaction history and they were able to say what people bought when there was a hurricane warning. All right. For the resumes, there are probably job portal databases where you can retrieve them from. And for the last one, to understand customer feedback, you can gather them from social media. So your first point is sorted. Now let's look at how things can really work out. How can you apply analytics? I'm going to give you very, very simple example just to give you an idea about how things work. So we are trying to answer our first question, which products sell together? All right. And it is on the basis of this that e-commerce platforms give you recommendations, or it is on the basis open from these kind of retail stores. So let's see what happens here. Look at the table on the left, where I've written 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 6, and so on and so on. So for each user, there are also the items which they pick up, which have been marked. All right. And what happens here is, so I have this huge table. Imagine I'm Walmart, imagine I'm Revola Retail. I've got these hundreds and thousands of customers who come to my retail store and buy things. I've got bytes and bytes of data available with me. So we will transform this table into, like Usama said, we are now going to analyze these transactions. So what do? We will transform this table into the table on the right. Look at how I've transformed it. So you need to do a little bit of data preparation if you need to do analysis. All right. Your data is available from the transaction history. You are now preparing your data for analysis. So what have I done? First user, I'm now giving names to the user to make it easy for us to understand. So first user is James, and James has bought apple. Orange is 0, pineapple is 1, grapes is 1, and milk is 0. So wherever there is a 1, I have bought the item, and wherever there is a 0, the customer has not bought the item. Okay, this is the first step of analysis. Now what do? I need to look at whether there are certain patterns in this data. Is there some kind of trend that is noticeable? So what do? I am now the same table. I'm just looking at what are the items bought by each people. That's interesting to me. James has bought apple, pineapple, and grapes. Mike has bought orange, pineapple, and milk. Jack has bought only apple. So on and so on. Okay, I have just colored wherever there has been a transaction. Now, when I look at it in more depth, what I find is something very interesting. All right. I am, for instance, now look at this one. I've color coded it so that you are able to understand it even better. Look at James and Rick, for instance, 2 customers. There is James and there is Rick, both the orange colored cells. Now, what do you find here? James has bought apple. James has bought James has bought apple, pineapple, and grapes. What has Rick bought? Rick has bought apple, pineapple, grapes, and milk. So you are finding that there is a certain similarity in their transactions. 3 items are common to both: apple, pineapple, and grapes. So therefore, please understand, this is a very, very miniature, simple version. But on the basis of this, the organization is able to come to the conclusion that probably Rick may have forgotten milk. There is a probability that, James is also likely to buy milk. Are you able to understand? And therefore, just as he is logging out of the e-commerce platform, they will send a message, did you forget milk? Or if you are doing it offline, they will send you a personalized coupon saying that maybe this is of interest to you. And when you come to our store next time, you can use this coupon to buy it. Are you able to understand how they are able to establish the patterns, how analytics is actually, how they're using data to understand the transactions? All right. The same thing, if you look at Mike, or if you look at Grace and Imran, the yellow colored cells, you are able to find again a pattern. Grace has bought only pineapple. Imran has bought only pineapple and grapes, and therefore Grace may be likely to buy grapes as well. This kind of, so what are you doing? On the basis of this, you begin to send recommendations. And this is exactly what happens to all of us. We all receive product recommendations. All right. Now, so this is one way. This is the first question that is getting answered. And therefore, Spectre understands what are the products that are likely to sell together. Let me give you a very interesting example. American stores, for instance, this happened many years back again. They did a kind of analysis like this, and they found out that on Friday evenings, it was found that young dads, young fathers who are on their way to home from office often picked up beer cases, and they also picked up baby diapers. These were two common items that were, common elements found in most transactions. So what did they do? In the physical stores, they placed these two items together. The shelves were placed together because look at how even the shelving, how the stocking in the physical stores were done on the basis of these kind of data analysis. Because young fathers often picked up these items. That's what I said. Most of the cases, these items which are picked up together go beyond our intuitions. We only imagine bread and jam and butter to get sold together. But what could be actually happening is the case of diapers and beer cases. That only data can tell you. Now, in the HR case, Spectre wants to know, Ravola Retails is huge. All right, look at the question. So can anyone help the HR team to shortlist resumes faster and save time? Are you all able to follow what is being spoken? Are you all able to relate to the examples? All right, great, thanks. Reinforcement in between is always good for the instructor. All right. So what happens here in the HR recruitment scene? So what I want all of you to look at, there is a sample CV on the left side of the screen, and you can also see a blue colored table. All right. So imagine we are all HR people. So thousands of resumes are coming to you. Now, what do? Of course, you need computers, you need algorithms. But what is really happening? What happens here is, I've created a scorecard. I've created a scoring table. And I've told my team that if the CV carries the keyword Python, you give it 5 marks. If it carries SQL as a keyword, give it 6 marks. And that is why all of you, when you apply for your jobs in these days, be very, very clear with the kind of keywords that you use. Be very clear on what are the keywords that you use in the CV. People are not going to be reading. There are machines which are going to pick it up. There are algorithms which are going to pick up the contents of your CV. All right. So I've given these set of instructions. So Michael Williamson sends the CV, and on the basis of which, if you look at the table in the middle, there is a table which is prepared with the score. So there is a 5 marks or a score of 5, which is given for Python. And there is the algorithm counts the number of times Python has been mentioned in the CV. All right. And these algorithms are written in such a way that even if absolutely Google uses automated resume screening software to save time. So what's exactly happening? This is what is happening. So they have, these algorithms are so powerful that if I write Python 10 times, it might actually disqualify because there is a certain bias. There is a certain skewness that comes. All right. So these algorithms are also pretty smart. Okay. On the basis of this, there is a scoring which is done. Now, it is not over with that. HR people can also look at the social media. They can look at what are the interests that I have as a person. They looked at my LinkedIn profile, see what is the kind of network that I have, who are the people I follow. So if I tend to follow Ronaldo and Messi, immediately they know that I'm a sports buff. If I follow Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg, and if I follow Elon Musk and people like that, they know that I have an eye for business. Or if I follow, maybe the kinds of the celebrities, Justin Bieber, and so on, my interest lies in music. So social media data could also be connected, and then the overall profiling of the person is done. So organizations, so this is the way, hundreds and thousands of resumes, they do an auto screening to see which are the ones that closely match the interest of the organization. Let me quickly go to the third question. I hope you remember the third question. The third question was, what are our customer feedback? So let me just go back to the earlier example. So what are we doing here? We are doing a bit of text analytics here. We are actually looking at the text. We are picking up keywords, and then we are working on that in order to find out which has been the most used, frequently used keywords. What does it tell about the person, and so on. The third question is, what does our customers talk about our product or company? Eaton Business School wants to know, what does our students talk about us? Do they really say that Eaton provides the best education? Eaton provides the best online learning experience. That is what the company really looks forward to. So what do? One of their main sources of data could be social media data. I could go to Google and put a review there, Google review about Eaton Business School. I could provide a review about Ravola Retail. So look at this on the basis of, so what do? Or I could be tweeting. I could be tweeting. I drove my Tesla for the first time and I say it was an awesome experience. And I just go to Twitter and write, Tesla was a great experience. So these are all sentiments that the customers are expressing. I fly Emirates and I say I feel world class. It's a sentiment that I'm expressing. I fly another airline and I say it was a horrible experience. They broke my luggage. They broke my whatever. I could be putting it on Twitter. I can write, I had a horrible experience today on Uber. The driver was a very unfriendly person driving at top speed. So rash in driving. These are sentiments that consumers are expressing. And to organizations, these sentiments matter. Customers' sentiments. So I can collect these tweets and I can do a lot of analysis and I can build a word cloud like this. And the word cloud will tell what, yes for us, this is what is. So different types, different applications. This is sentiment analysis. Or I can look at, Spectre looks at this. Beautiful visualization. This is what is called as visualization in analytics. It shows, if you look at the scale on the right, it is showing these sentiments. Positive sentiments are all expressed in blue, and there is a scale which moves to red. So positive, if you are on the positive side, your place is likely to be in blue. And if you are expressing negative sentiments, your place is likely to be in red. This is what is known as a filled map. And we have tools to create these kind of maps. So what is it showing? There are 2 states in America which says very, very negative about Ravola Retail. Spectre can pick up the phone and just call up a sales team and says, we need to do something about those 2 states. There are 2 decisions that he can make. Invest more money in these states so that our competitors do not eat up our market share. 2, there is no point. Do not invest anymore in these 2 states. Rather, let us focus on our profit making. Let us focus on our states where people are talking really good about us. Are you able to get it? Are you able to understand? This is analysis of sentiments, and this is how organizations can act on these kinds of information that comes from data. So if you look at the different industries, if you are looking at the different sector, if you are looking at different domains, whether you are in manufacturing, whether you are in retail, whether you are in healthcare, whether you are in e-commerce, whether you are in service, whether you are in banking and finance, whether you are in IT and IT-enabled services, everywhere you will find analytics, application of analytics possible. You are in healthcare, great, one of the greatest adopters of analytics in these days. There is so much of patient data available. There is so much of imaging that is available. What can we really do with this data? There is so much that you can do with the data. You are in manufacturing, absolutely great. Supply chain analytics, so many things, logistics that can be managed well because of analytics. How can you manage your revenue analytics, warranty analytics? Where are the product failures maximum reported? What is the problem with the design of the product? So many things that can actually be analyzed. Jacob, is that a question? Health data of individuals? Yes, healthcare. You're able to actually, look at the kind of patient data that you have and do a lot about it to understand what are the kind of diseases. Are there any kind of trends that run in a certain segment of the population, in a certain category of the population, in a certain age category? So many things that you are able to really look at. What happened to during a particular point of time? All right. Yes, Faraz, Apple Watch sharing the health data. So all this, my Apple Watch can be connected to my Nike shoe, etc., etc. It's an ecosystem today. It's a perfectly built ecosystem today. Frank, I think the whole session is getting recorded, so probably you will have an access to the recording. You can ask Bhavana. All right, so I don't think there should be a problem with that. All right, so what we just discussed was the application. Let's come to the final part. There are 4 parts to the presentation. We finished the second part. The third part is the tools and techniques. I would spend very little time here, and I will go on to the 4th part, because tools and techniques are, thank you, Philip, that's a boost, the fact that you are enjoying it. All right. So tools and techniques are like, there are certain procedures. But it is not enough that you have data. What do you do with the data? How do you analyze it? So you have certain procedures to analyze the data. You want to find out whether COVID is related to age. So you have 2 variables. You have the number of people who are infected by COVID, and you have their age information. Now, is there some kind of correlation between these? What method do you use? What procedure do you use to analyze this data? All right. And so for this, you need certain procedures. These procedures are called techniques. Now, please understand the data that we are collecting today, the data that business organizations are collecting today is so huge. It is so huge that, there is no way that human beings out of their own intelligence can analyze it. So what you need is, you need certain advanced tools. You need computers, you need algorithms, you need advanced computing. All right. So we're just going to very quickly look at what these tools and techniques are. And before that, now, since I've been speaking for almost 45 to 50 minutes about what business analytics is, I want you to understand the simple definition. Business analytics will involve statistical techniques. It will involve operations research techniques. It will involve AI, artificial intelligence. It will involve IT, information technology, data management strategies for analyzing your problem. You have to frame the problem, you have to collect the data, you have to analyze the data, and you have to give insights to the organization. That is business analytics. And I can just expand that definition to show you what this is all about. So the first part is mathematical, statistical, and operations research techniques. So what happens here? Before I just tell you that, I want you to understand that there are different types of analytics. All right. So it is dependent upon which type of analytics that we are dealing with that our tools and techniques are also going to be based. So for instance, Walmart. What did Walmart do? Walmart wanted to find out on the basis of past data, they wanted to find out what is, what really happened. That is all they wanted to find out. What did people buy when there was a hurricane warning? This kind of analytics is what is referred to as descriptive analytics. That's the first class of analytics, descriptive analytics. The question is simple, what happened? So you have a set of tools and techniques in order to, you want to find the largest selling item at that point of time. Second, you have what is referred to as predictive analytics. You want to predict something. I'm sure you've all heard of a retail store called Target. Target is another player in the US, just like Walmart. You know what Target did? Target created a model. And you know what that model did? The model would predict whether, so every time a female shopper comes into Target, it is able, the algorithm will identify whether the female shopper is pregnant or not pregnant. Pregnancy is a great time, right? People spend a lot. People don't really mind spending money because they want to buy the best for their baby. Target found this as a great business opportunity. So they wanted to identify who among their shoppers are pregnant. So they found that female shoppers, when they are pregnant, they buy certain items, certain very particular items. In the first trimester, they buy something. Second trimester, they buy maternity wear, an anti-stretch mark, and so on and so on. Absolutely. They are able to identify the patterns and they are able to predict whether the person is pregnant or not. It is called predictive analytics. So so what happened here? In descriptive, they looked at past data, and the question is, what happened? Here they are saying, on the basis of data, what will happen? They are going to predict, is the customer likely to buy this or not? Is the customer pregnant or not? And the third class, what we all find today, if you take your keyboard, if you take your phone and start typing, there are prompts which come. Even before you type, it will tell you the word. It is prescribing something for you. It is actually telling something for you. Google Maps is giving you, it's prescribing a course of action. It is not only telling you what happened, what is Netflix doing? It is recommending a series to you, prescribing something to you. TikTok, if you watch certain number of videos on TikTok, it will immediately understand what are you likely to watch. So it will prescribe the next set of videos. So you have prescriptive analytics, the self-driving cars, all this are going to depend more and more on these advanced kind of analytics. So based on these type of analytics, you can have different techniques. You can have statistics, descriptive statistics, inferential statistics, and don't mind, you have plenty of tools that will help you in all of this. How to collect data, how to analyze, but you need to have an idea of what is it that you need to use when you are faced with a particular problem. Are you going to do a regression? Are you going to do a correlation? Are you going to do some descriptive statistics here? What is it that you are going to? Are you going to do logistic regression? Are you going to do clustering? Are you going to do decision trees? What is it that you're going to do? What are the techniques that you are going to apply? And as we go more and more, you also have artificial intelligence that is coming up. So human intelligence will not be able to fathom this kind of data. So you need artificial intelligence. And how do machines get their intelligence? They have to learn. They have machine learning. They will learn how to analyze data. So you teach a little baby that when you show a dog to a baby, you show a cat to a baby and say, this is a cat, this is a dog. Same way you will teach machines. There are different ways by which machines begin to learn and they begin to interpret, they begin to identify data. And you have advanced ways of machine learning, different ways or different, more advanced mechanisms by which this learning happens, which is referred to as deep learning, that begins to emulate the functions of a brain, of a human brain. So you have techniques, you have different techniques by which, you can analyze the data, depending upon what is the type of analytics that you employ. You also have a host of tools. Do you want to collect data? You have data collection tools. You have Semantria, you have Tracker to collect your social media data. You have different APIs, etc., etc. I'm just giving you all these examples. Do you want to store data? Huge data, big data is what organizations deal with in these days. How do you collect and store these data? So you have what are referred to as Hadoop, you have MongoDB, different ways by which organizations, different tools that organizations can use in order to store data. Do you want to extract data? You have, if you want to extract social media data, you have different kinds of tools. Do you want to clean your data, refine your data? You have tools for that. And finally, the most important, how do you analyze your data? You have examples like R, you have examples like Python, you have examples like Apache Spark, and so on and so on. Python is very, very common, popular these days among people who are learning analytics and data science, as well as in organizations. All right. So these are some of the very important ways in which you can look at data. Another is visualization. I showed you a map earlier. When we came to sentiment analysis, I showed you a map. Excel, excellent, Osama. If you are good in Excel, it is a simple, the question here is, can we use Excel? Excel is a great, great way to start your entry into the world of analytics. All right, almost everything. See, the question here is, when you see data, are you able, regardless of the tool, are you able to understand what is it that I need to do with the data? So tool is not a problem. Tool is something that you can get trained to, but you have to love data. You have to have that affinity towards data. You need to know what the numbers are trying to speak to you. If you speak, if you listen, data will speak to you. You can do all kinds of charts. It's only that there are certain. So if you look at, for instance, if you look at something like Tableau, Tableau is a great visualization tool. You don't have to do anything. It's just drag and drop. It's just click and play. That's the advantage that some of these tools will offer over Excel. But Excel is a great way to actually go about in your data visualization. All right. We come to the last few minutes of the session. What does all this mean for me? What does it really mean for me? So you might have heard a lot of things, that data sciences, analytics is the most happening job, and so on. It obviously is. It is because your modern society runs on data. Elections in the world run on data. Hillary Clinton and Trump, even today, the debate is not over as to who had really won that election, or how did Trump actually win that election. All right. So modern society runs on data. Remember, so in the coming days, in the coming times, if you are a person who are looking at building up a great career, there is one important thing that I would like to answer. I would like to tell all of you. I'm assuming that a lot of you, many of you would have had some work experience. You're probably working in banking. You're probably working in marketing, in manufacturing, in hospitality, in healthcare, whatever it is. Your domain knowledge is the first and the most important thing that is required for any data analysis. If you don't know your function area, if you are not thorough with the domain that you are operating in, no matter what data is given into your hands, it will not make sense. So, it is great if you are all working people who are now pursuing MBA, and you are looking at what needs to be done ahead. All right. And the second thing I want you to look at this data, I mean, this particular graph here, this is the way in which I'm visualizing it. Look at the biggest adopters of data, adopters of analytics. If you look at it, telecom, insurance, advertising, financial services, healthcare are some of the top industries where data analytics is being, telecom, it really matters so much. So if you're a person who is working in the telecom industry, learn analytics and you are able to pitch yourself better. Learn what it means. Learn what are the common techniques. Learn what are the common tools. When you see data, how do you interpret it? What does data mean to me? In telecom, how will I predict whether a customer is likely to churn or not? What is happening? What can AI do for me? What can machine learning do in this particular context? You have to keep yourself updated. And therefore, analytics, if you are looking at analytics as as an option for your career, I think that's probably one of the greatest decision that you will ever make. It is only, you're really coupling your domain knowledge with a great skill. All right. So look at yourself. You need to ask, what does all this mean for me? Am I a person? Communication skills, it will definitely need to be there. Do you really love numbers? Great. Are you a person who can learn? Absolutely great. It all depends on how much you are able to throw yourself into. I think I will stop with that. I don't want to, take you more into this. And I'm sure Eaton Business School team will definitely catch up with you on what the options that they have to offer. So the floor is now open to any questions if you want. I can take that. Bhavana, is there anything that you would like to say, please?
Ma'am, first of all, I would like to thank you a lot for your precious time. I enjoyed the session very much personally, and I believe all my colleagues, those who are attending session, they also must have enjoyed a lot.
Thank you. Great.
So the floor is open now for any questions from the attendees. Ma'am, we actually have a question from Mr. Jacob. He says, I'm of the opinion that there is a need for consistency and trend before I can use some of these for decision. Surprising that Walmart made an informed decision using only one instance. Could you talk on this? The question is in question and answer box. I would request all the attendees to put their questions in question and answer sessions so that we can take it from there.
Okay. See, Jacob, Walmart took that decision on the basis of one similar instance, but they had millions of transactions or thousands of transactions to back up. And it was not, it's all a gamble in a way. But at least there was a lot of similarity that was there. They found out that it was in the same location. It was immediately after a hurricane warning. They found there was a particular trend in the buying pattern. So they did not just analyze maybe a few hundred transactions. They looked at thousands of transactions that happened over a 24 to 36 period, a 36-hour period after the warning was issued. So even though it was only one instance, they had huge data on the basis of which they did that analysis. And remember, we are talking about 2008 period. So that was the best bet that they had.
Thank you, ma'am. So we'll take another question from another attendee, Mr. Timothy. He says, share a bit more on difference between business analytics and business intelligence.
Oh, yes. So, you know what? Business, okay, let me just show you the simple graph here. Are you who is that asked the question, Bhavna? Who asked the question?
Mr. Timothy Laku.
Okay. All right. Timothy, are you able to see this graph that I'm showing you here? So I'm just showing you the adoption of analytics. Where is it, which are some of the industries? Yes. Timothy, this is business intelligence. So imagine yourself as, imagine yourself as a, what do I say, as a manager. You want to see who are your best performing salesmen. All right. So what do? You tell your team to just give you a report on the kind of performance that they have been doing. All right. And they give you this graph. This is business intelligence. This kind of reporting, these kind of dashboards are all what is referred to as business intelligence. Analytics is a lot more than that. So you make certain queries to your existing data, simple queries, which are the top performing regions, etc., etc. That is what is more or less business intelligence. Analytics is slightly more advanced. You are looking for hidden patterns. You are looking for trends that were not really there. You are expecting data to tell you a story. Are you able to understand? That is what analytics is all about. You are actually mining into the data and trying to extract better patterns. So that is actually feeding into your business intelligence today. Your business intelligence initially was just querying whatever data you had for simple. Now, those are the questions that you can ask. But you want to see whether data is going to tell you a different story. That is what analytics is all about. Did I answer your question, Timothy? So in a way, analytics is going to make use of a lot more of statistical and mathematical operations than what a business intelligence report would really do for you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
We have feedback from one of our alumni, Miss Mariska. I believe you must have taught her.
Oh, yes, Mariska. I remember Mariska. Yes.
She says, I took the business analytics MBA in 2019-2020, and it absolutely had an impact on my personal and professional life. And she suggests all the prospective students to take it, not to think. Thank you so much, Ms. Mariska, for such a feedback. It motivates us, and we are glad that we made some impact on your professional and personal life.
And I'm so glad, Mariska, that you actually, the statement that she's written, great to see that you finished your PhD. I'm so glad you remember, that I was not a PhD then, that I'm a PhD now. Great observation. Thank you. I'm so glad that you're doing well.
So we have another question from Mohammed Salifu. What keywords should be captured in a profile of data analyst?
Okay, Mohammed, are you talking about some of the greatest skills that you need to possess? Is that what you're talking about? If you're applying for a data science job, what are the key skills? Is that what you're looking at? Okay, I'm just going to answer on the basis of my understanding of that question. I am assuming that what you've asked is, what are the key skills that you should be spotting if you were in your CV? Oh, okay, great. Thanks, Mohammed. Thanks for the answer. So SQL is a major skill, structured query language, because a lot of, if you need to manipulate data, SQL is important. An understanding of R, Python, Excel, either of this, any of this is important. If you can say you are proficient in Excel, great. Because if you are proficient in Excel, all the others wouldn't be a problem. If you have an expertise in R or in Python, or even a beginner's understanding of any of this, simply great. All right. So these are all great things. Communication skills, otherwise, great. If you are good at writing, if you're good at, you are good at data interpretation. All these are these are key. So if your CV spots SQL, if your CV spots Python, R, or Excel, Tableau. Tableau is something that is in demand in organizations these days. So these are some of the skills that would, and last above all, your functional knowledge. If you say, for instance, you have expertise, or you've been in the banking industry for 5 years. 5 years of work in an industry means a certain level of knowledge. So you're going to couple that knowledge with certain other skills, and you're ready for an analytics career or a data science career. No. So, okay, let's take this question. Usama has a question here. Data scientist is a better career option for people with technical background or those with a business degree. Data science involves technical, there is a technical component which is attached to it, because you are going to look more at algorithms. You're going to look at more at, how to improve your algorithm in its real sense, data scientist people. Business analytics, if you are, so let me put it this way. I go back to the earlier answer. If you have a functional knowledge, and if you think you can learn up 1 or 2 of these skills, if you're good at a visualization technique, or a tool, if you are able to do some kind of analysis using certain tools, I think it's perfectly fine. If you're going for a core data scientist job, if you're going for a core data scientist career, it's more technical than a business orientation. If you're going in for a business analyst or a business analytics job, it is more to do with your functional knowledge plus your technical competence. Do you need to know coding? No, you don't need to. But if I look at a chart, should I be able to interpret? Yes, you need to. That's the difference. Data sciences, no, your job would be more of coding, improving the algorithm, and so on and so on. So 2 different aspects. Data sciences would be one, business analyst and analytics would be the other. I hope I answered your question.
Ma'am, we have another question which is relevant to something what you have answered. What is the difference between a business analyst, data scientist, and a data analyst? Many hiring managers mix the skill and experience requirements for both.
What's the last part of the question? I didn't hear that.
Many hiring managers mix the skill or the experience requirements for both.
Business analyst, and the third was data analyst. Did you say? Data
analyst, yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I think I've answered the first part, but I'll still repeat it. Data science is, so if you're a data scientist, you are required to know the statistical and than what is expected of a business analyst. Business analyst should be a combination of very, very strong combination of your functional knowledge and some of these skills. Are you able to understand the difference? I hope you are able to. So data analyst would be you are analyzing data. So maybe you are good at R, you are able to crunch the data and give a report. You are able to develop a visualization and give a report. That would be your data analyst role. So the data sciences, it's just like, imagine a scientist versus a manager. Scientist would be very, very key. You should be so familiar with your procedures and your techniques. As a manager, that is not what is important to you. You look at all the charts, or you look at all the numbers, or the visualization, and are you able to do something? Are you able to take a decision on the basis of that? That is your managerial role. Are you able to get it? So if you look at an organization like Netflix or look at Facebook, they pay their engineers the highest. Their technical team, Google's engineers are probably, some of the most brilliant people on the world. Why? Because their algorithms do their job. There is no Google if there is no fast working algorithm. You put a keyword into the search, and before you breathe out, the answer is there. What makes it work? The algorithms make it work. Very, very powerful algorithms. And who's behind that? The brains behind those are those engineers. So their competence should lie there. Their competence should lie in devising those algorithms, how to make those algorithms better, how to give you better product recommendations on Netflix. So that is core data sciences. Business analytics is not just that. Business analytics is, I know what banking is all about. I know what telecom is all about. Now, what does this data tell me? Are there strategies that I can devise? That kind of understanding will come here.
Thank you, ma'am. We have another question from some attendee who I can't see the name. It says anonymous attendee. The question is, first of all, he thanks for the session. And with regards to technical skills that you just mentioned, SQL, Python, Excel, should we attain certification for it before applying for a position?
See, certifications are a kind of authentication, in the sense you are putting something on your CV and you're putting a certification, it says. But when you go for an interview, when they ask you 5 questions, the way you answer those 5 questions, or they ask you to do something, they ask you to write a simple program. Very, very simple program will show your logic if you are going in for a data sciences. Whatever be the role, analytics or data sciences. So certifications, people can do any number and still not be clear about anything. Because certification exams, if you just Google, you will get the answers. That's not a big thing. The thing here is that you are able to learn something and you are able to apply that. So given an interview situation, given an actual job scenario, are you able to apply what has been learned? That's what matters. So with or without certifications, add a little more credibility, but still you should be able to prove it. In certain organizations, certifications may add value. Well, this person is certified, professional certification. So I can probably go in for a certified business analytics professional certification. That's otherwise, if you are able to prove yourself, nothing like it. Now, if you ask me, I'm in a teaching career and I keep doing certifications. Why? Why do I do certifications? Because I want to learn. I want to keep in trend. And this is a constantly evolving field. Earlier, R was the preferred language. Now, if you look at the software, Python is something that is very, very much popular. So I have to be updated. I have to do Python. Otherwise, I will not be able to stand in front of my students. I learned Tableau 2 years back. And I find that Tableau is something today in our business school where placements come, Tableau is a skill that is commonly asked. SQL, I did a certification in Oracle. So, these things only add a credibility. But beyond that, it is up to you as a person, how you apply it. Are you able to really understand what it is all about? That clarity should be there.
Thank you, ma'am. So we would expect more questions. Questions from attendees. We have a message from Mr. Kemario. Thanks for session. I joined at the mid of session, but found so helpful. Mr. Kemario, you can get in touch with us. We won't mind sharing the recording because the session is being recorded completely. We would share it with you definitely. And we are glad that you liked it. I hope the whole session would be more helpful for you. Mr. Frank, we would be glad that, inspired by the session, you would join the course. Just to brief you all attendees, the course is related to business analytics. As at Eaton Business School, we do offer MBA in business analytics, which is for the working professionals. And we do offer short-term certification programs as well related to business analytics, which is again for working professionals. For any further questions, queries related to the course, you can get back to us. You can visit our website. I shall type our website address in the message box. If you are in contact with any of our course advisors, you can get in touch with them. They shall definitely help you to get the courses. And you have met one of our faculty who deals in business analytics. Angela, you must have experienced what you're going to take away when you join the course.
All right. So Bhavna, is that I thank everyone who's been putting in very kind words. Jimmy, Kimario, George, Hasna, and I hope EBS will be your place. I'm sure they've got some great options.
We look forward all these attendees as student in your class, ma'am.
Let's see.
Yeah. So thank you all the attendees. Please, if you have any questions, you can please put all your question in question answer box. We might wind up in next 5 minutes. So no more questions. We have one.
Tell me.
How do I get in touch with Professor Angela? Ma'am, do you mind sharing your LinkedIn profile link?
My LinkedIn profile link, sure. Just a second. Give me a second, please.
But Mr. Frank, just to add on, when you join the course, you will anyways be in touch with her because she'll be the faculty teaching you business analytics. Mr. Frank, I was saying Dr. Angela would share her LinkedIn profile, but definitely you will be in contact with her once you join the course. She'll be your teacher for business analytics.
Now, would you mind if I just share my email ID at the moment? I haven't logged into my LinkedIn account from the system.
Frank, so what you can do is you can get in touch with me. You can find me on LinkedIn. I should share her contact things with you.
Yeah. Or I can even send it to you, Bhavna, my LinkedIn profile. You can share it with them.
Definitely, ma'am. So I have shared my LinkedIn profile, Frank. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, and I shall definitely, share the LinkedIn profile link for Dr. Angela with you. Oh, that's great. So do we have any more questions from the attendees? So we'll end the session for today. Any questions, any queries, I have shared our website address. You can visit our website. My LinkedIn profile link is there. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can get back to me for any queries, any concerns that you might have related to our courses. I shall assist you best, or I shall guide you to our advisors who would at their best help you and support you to complete the program with us.
So I've just put my LinkedIn profile there, and it's there.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
It's there in the chat. All right. So shall we call it a day then?
Yes, ma'am, I think.
Thank you. Thank you, Bhavna, and thank you,
so
everyone.
much. Thank you, ma'am. Thanks to all our lovely attendees. And I hope to see most of them in your class soon. Thank you all of you. Have a good evening ahead.